Ah yes, old America. For decades and decades, and upon a century, foreign fighters from all over made the voyage to prove their worth. This is a video going through the most impressive US debuts in boxing. With that being said, let's start the video. Dmitry Bivol, a well-decorated amateur who made his voyage rather quickly to the States in his fourth pro bout to fight Felipe Romeo. Bivol put on a dominating performance, showcasing good technique, fundamentals, and most importantly, patience round after round, to where he get the stoppage in the 8th and final round. Even though it looks great blowing through your early opponents, it can also as the fights go on. I think the best recent example is with Edgar Berlanga. After going through perfectly tailored opponents who were meant to fall and create highlight reels, Berlanga's first ranked opponent, just shy of the top 50 ranks, he takes to the distance. Since all eyes are on him now due to the network's push and some things he said himself, he now has to pick up the pieces, making up for the rounds he could have gotten precious experience in against non-ranked and top 200 ranked opponents. Now has to do that and learn quickly up against the top 50 ranked opponents for regional belts, and so far it has not looked pretty. At strawweight, Gonzalez was a monster, who would become the strawweight champion in 2008 against WBA champ Yutaka Nida. He would make 3 defenses before moving up and capturing an interim title to set himself up to become a 2-division champion. With the record of 29-0 in his second defense, he was up against Omar Soto in Las Vegas, Nevada. By this point, Roman has mostly fought in Nicaragua, Japan, and Mexico. A little bit of drama coming into the fight as Soto came in 3.5 pounds overweight. The fight would go on and Roman would make easy work of Soto, putting him away in the second round. By this point, Golovkin had fought most of his career in Germany. His move to America was the most necessary due to the way he was being promoted. For a world champion, it seemed like he was being under-promoted. HBO really rolled the dice here with this, greenlighting the broadcast to this fight, because Golovkin was virtually unknown to American audiences. Maybe Proska, who was a top middleweight at that time, and he beat former champion Sebastian Sylvester. Shoot, I don't even know by this point. Golovkin had an incredible amount of pressure to deliver big against Proska. This main event was a risk to boxing after dark standards.
Now making his American TV debut, he not only has to win, but has to win big against the guy who it's not so easy to win against in the first place.
Which is wild to think because that's the purpose of BAD, which is to throw risky cards with a low budget. They're like the Canon films of boxing. If Boxing After Dark is the Canon films of boxing, this fight is equivalent to American Ninja. Golovkin delivered and then some right at the opening bell.
Golovkin and Proxa gets hurt. Down he goes. First time in his career he's been down as an amateur or a pro.
Then to beautifully finish off Proska in the 4th round, spawning a successful career in America.
Here you see a guy combine the natural heavy hand.
Good left hand to the body and left to the head. Down goes Proxa.
Yes, it is. And he's still giving us all he has.
Oh, right hand hurt Proxa. Golovkin steps in and down he goes again. How tough is Proxa? No, the referee stops it.
Guys, Proxa.
Quite a bit of hype coming in for Amir Khan after he came back after his loss, to team up with Freddie Roach and conditioning coach Alex Ariza. That will go on a full showcase against WBA champion Andreas Kotelnik, putting on one of his best performances of his career, completely shutting him out for 12 rounds.
This is an excellent start from him. really is boxing beautifully here. He's showing the grit that we need to see from him in this round. This is real good stuff from Khan.
He might be younger, he might be fresher, but he's outclassing a high-class technician. As the seconds tick away, the jab comes out again, which has been brilliant. A terrific technical performance from Amir Khan, who followed the game plan.
After a first-round TKO victory against Dmitry Salita to end off the 2009 year, Khan was primed to start the 2010 year off, making his US debut in New York City against Brooklyn native Paulie Malignaggi. Coming into 2010, Amir Khan was ranked number 2 and Paulie was ranked number 5 in the world. Paulie just coming off a win against Juan Diaz in their rematch. Paulie, who was a relatively fast fighter, was no match for Khan, who ran circles around him. In retrospect, looking at Malignaggi's fights against fast-handed opponents such as Adrian Broner and Juan Diaz, in comparison, it's shocking how fast Khan was against him. Khan would shut Paulie out on the scorecards and get the stoppage in the 11th round. Arthur Abraham was a straight beast at middleweight. He was big for the division, barely making the 160-pound limit, and packed some serious punching power. Taylor would vacate shortly after dethroning Bernard Hopkins, in which Abraham would win the IBF title December of that year. Abraham would go on to make 7 defenses at IBF crown. His final 4 defenses were by KO. In his American debut, he was set to face rival Edson Miranda. Miranda was the only fighter at that time to give the boogeyman of the division, Abraham, a run for his money. Miranda breaking Arthur's jaw in the 4th round. Abraham really digging deep with his swollen jaw, and luck on his side with several point deductions against Miranda, which were clear fouls. Abraham barely scraped away with a victory. The rematch was at a catchweight of 166. The fight would start off in Miranda's favor.
Fall apart after 6 or 7 rounds. If that doesn't happen, and still astonished that the Miranda couldn't drop Abraham. Doesn't want to be deep in the corner. Half hook, half uppercut by Miranda. Miranda again taking Abraham into the corner.
And like in the first fight, Miranda will have problems keeping his punches up, landing a massive low blow on Abraham. The 3rd round, Abraham would find his rhythm and come out winning the 3rd. The 4th round, Miranda was firing away without a response from Abraham, who remained in a defensive position for a good 20 seconds till he got Edison's timing down and cracked him with the first shots of the round, dropping Miranda. Abraham will follow through and drop Miranda again with a perfect left hook. Shortly after the 2nd knockdown, Abraham will close the show and get the TKO victory. Oddly enough, Maidana fought most of his career in both Argentina and Germany prior to his US debut. He had 6 fights in Germany. Maidana was coming off a highway robbery against Andreas Kotelnik for the WBA title. For his US debut, he would be matched up against highly regarded prospect Victor Ortiz. Maidana was ranked number 2 by the WBA, number 9 by Ring Magazine. Ortiz was ranked number 3 by the WBA, and unranked by Ring Magazine. When I say he's unranked by Ring Magazine, that means he's not in the top 10 by that publication. Ortiz would start quick, dropping Maidana in the 1st round.
Counter right, and then Ortiz drops Maidana.
Not paying attention to Maidana, he would get knocked down himself literally a couple seconds after the fight resumed.
Ortiz gets dropped from a big right hand.
Ortiz seemed to have picked it back up in the 2nd round, dropping Maidana twice, but he didn't get him out of there, and he had expended way too much energy. It was downhill from there, and Maidana, the much more experienced and fresher fighter, would take over and get the stoppage in the 6th round.
Is in big trouble, and he goes down. They're going to stop him because of that cut.
Those who followed the lower weight classes. Former WBC champion Sirsikitsur Rungvisai was one of the best and feared fighters in the weight class. The ignorant fans who don't follow the lower weight classes saw Rungvisai as a cherry pick despite being a former champ and the current mandatory for almost 3 years. They saw him as a bum who pads his record, not knowing this is quite common in Thailand, as it's a great way to stay busy, sharp year-round, and get paid for it because not every fighter has the privilege to fight once a year and wait around for that call-up for a big fight. It's pretty sad fans would demonize a fighter for doing his job as a boxer, fighting full-time in the ring, something that was once common in the 50s and back compared to the modern boxer who's active seasonally. It's pretty hypocritical. The fight fans that claim to hate on boxing today and praise boxing back then will put down a fighter from one of the very few countries to still partake in boxing culture from the old school. Yeah, the fighters back in the day for the most part fought the best, but you think a guy like Archie Moore with 200 plus fights was fighting prospects, contenders, and champs every fight? Absolutely not. Moore won the light heavyweight title in 1954. He will make 2 defenses the following year. He fought 11 times in 1956, and out of those 11, 1 was a title fight, and 1 was against a popular pro wrestler on his boxing debut. Anyways, general public was sleeping on Rungvisai so bad that Rungvisai's rival, and who you can say avoided fighting him, Carlos Cuadras, came out warning the public this is a very tough fight for the pound-for-pound star Roman Gonzalez. From the start of the bell, it was apparent that Rungvisai was not no pushover, dropping Gonzalez for the first time in 10 years. Gonzalez should find his rhythm and even up the scorecards and possibly be ahead by a round or 2 at the halfway point, but it came at a price as Roman had expended a lot of energy to try and get Rungvisai out of there in the 5th and 6th round. Rungvisai would tighten things up and the fight could go either way in the championship rounds. Rungvisai would win by a very close majority decision. He would go on to win the rematch, but despite all of that, HBO's 2017 year-ender recap, they still didn't give Rungvisai the credit he deserved.
Was there a style advantage for the Thai fighter that we may have overlooked going into the first fight?
No, I don't think so. I think that he didn't really knock Chocolatito out. Not to take anything away from Rungvisai, I guess I just did. But he knocked out the remains of Chocolatito.
And claimed that Gonzalez was a shot fighter that reached his pinnacle and his motivation coming into the rematch wasn't there.
Why does the decision going the wrong way affect the fighter psychologically like that in a fight he really won? Because that was a big part of his boxing identity. I don't think the motivation was there the same way, and I have to think it's a result of the loss of the undefeated record. The technical loss of the undefeated record in a fight he really won, because the guy saw up to fight in the rematch. That wasn't him.
Before we get back to the rest of the video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the notification bell. YouTube does not push my videos to all my subscribers, making it hard for the good folks out there to know when a new upload drops. Liking and commenting helps those people see early and not days, weeks, or sometimes never. This week's comment section discussion topic is, what is the first combat sports event you ever attended? Boxing, MMA, kickboxing, you name it. Leave in the comments. For me, my first combat sporting event, I was actually working. It was back in 2015, Invicta FC 13. My good friend and mentor since 2010, Cynthia Vance, put me on. I had originally asked her back in 2012, even though I was just pure editing then. I had just got a camera shooting that November. Even though she said yes, I didn't feel ready. By 2015, I felt like I was ready. I had improved so much editing and shooting. I asked that spring, and she was happy to bring me along for that fight week, which happened to be their biggest event at that time. It was their first event in Las Vegas. The fight was on a Friday. It was the week of originally McGregor-Aldo. McGregor had a last-minute replacement for that event. And lastly, it was the week of the UFC Hall of Fame. So a lot of folks showed up to the event, a lot of familiar faces and faces I grew up watching in high school. It would be an experience I'll never forget, which very shortly in the months following spawned my career working in boxing. Alright, thanks for sticking around to the end, and let's get back to the video.
What's he got to do to conquer America, to capture the hearts? I mean, he's got to win, hasn't he, this one?
He basically has to do one thing, win.
and probably win big.
Absolutely ridiculous amount of hype around Prince Naseem Hamed due to his style and flamboyant persona, but just like the type of hot new computer tech that was coming out in the 90s and 2000s. Everyone would say, yeah, that's cool and all, but can it run Doom? For Hamed, can he do all that and then some in America against our top fighter? Yeah, you beat our guy, #1 ranked Tom Johnson, but that was in the UK, so that doesn't matter. You gotta come here to America, the mecca of boxing. And then, and I mean then, we just may say you're the best. The hype for this matchup, especially in the featherweight division, was incredible. There are very few fights where you are guaranteed your money's worth the minute it's announced.
We got a little Kevin Kelly fan here. What's gonna happen?
My school today. He was in my school, and I know this guy. He's gonna beat the Prince's ass. He's a wise guy.
It's rare to come by, and both guys came to win and did not disappoint. 6 total knockdowns split between the two.
Kelly is unable to solve, but down goes the Prince on Kelly's first serious landed punch. A looping right hand put Hamed down. What happened would be that the Prince was exposed as a fraud. His gloves touched the canvas.
I think the mistake he made, there we saw it, right there.
There's the power. There's the power you were talking about.
Hamed would come out the victor with a KO in the 4th round to successfully defend his title for the 9th time, in the featherweight division's equivalent to Hagler versus Hearns.
Taking some leather in return. Down goes Kelly on 2 hard left hands. Leaping right hand by the Prince. Ooh. And a hard left. And Kelly's down for the 3rd time.
Whoa! 6, 7, 8, 9. He's got a half a minute, and he is definitely hurt. And the fight is over. He's for real. The Prince is for real.
The country is Sweden, not really known for boxing. You can pretty much count in your hand the amount of world-class fighters that has spawned from there. But Edgar Johansson put Sweden on the map in the boxing world. After being convinced to go pro after contemplating on leaving boxing after the Olympics, he would swiftly rise through the ranks, capturing the EBU title, defeating several ranked fighters to make #7 in the Ring Magazine rankings by February 1957. 1958 would be his most successful year despite his rank dropping to #10 February of that year. His final fight that would become Sweden's most attended boxing fight, Johansson would knock out #1 ranked Eddie Maken in the 1st round to earn the shot to fight heavyweight champion Floyd Patterson. Eddie was the best contender at heavyweight, defeating Nino Valdez twice, Joey Maxim twice, and coming to a draw with the #2 ranked Zora Foley. This win was so impressive that Ring Magazine named Johansson 1958 Fighter of the Year. Johansson, with the record of 21-0, was shocked the world, stopping the 5-1 betting favorite Floyd Patterson in the 3rd round to become the heavyweight champion. Johansson would make the front page of Sports Illustrated with the title "The Right That Rocked the Sports World." Johansson, for the 2nd year in a row, would be named Ring Magazine Fight of the Year. Despite losing, Patterson was the best candidate to make history to become the first fighter to regain the heavyweight title as the 4-1 betting favorite, and he did in beautiful fashion, knocking Johansson out in the 6th round to recapture the title.
Round 5. And there it goes! 8, 9, boxing history is made! Boxing history is made!
Patterson will be named Ring Magazine Fight of the Year for such an unprecedented achievement. Not only this was Pacquiao's US debut, but his HBO debut as well. After a lot of wasted time with American promotions, Murad Muhammad, the only guy that delivered to get Pacquiao into position for a big fight.
And they gave me the opportunity to sit there and watch Manny Pacquiao. And I saw fighters falling. It was unbelievable, but I couldn't see the punch. I said, this is my kind of fighter. So I didn't want to hear anything else. I wanted Manny Pacquiao.
Pacquiao was virtually unknown at the time by Western audiences. His team still did not have the best confidence in Murad, but it was their last opportunity, so they gave him a chance and signed a 1-year deal.
Well, Murad, I've been here for 2 years and I'm disgusted. I mean, what could you do for me? I said, I pull miracles. He laughed about that. I said, you signed with me, I make your fighter rich and I make you rich.
The timing really couldn't have been any more perfect, and he sure did make a miracle happen, as number 7 ranked Manny Pacquiao by default earned the shot to fight Ledwaba, as all the rest of the opponents ranked above him were not available to fight Ledwaba on a 2 weeks notice. Keep in mind, this was 4 days after Manny had signed with Muhammad.
4 days later, Lamomo from South Africa, his opponent fell out. I knew then time to move Manny Pacquiao in. So when I called the IBF, they said, wait a minute, you're only number 7 in the world. I said, yes, but if you check number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6, they're not available. So we are the lead available contender. You're right. And that's how we got the shot. So Rod Nazaro said, my God, you do pull miracles. 4 days after signing, we're fighting for a world title.
This was Ledwaba's 6th title defense. He was ranked number 3 in the world, and Manny came in as a 10-1 underdog, according to an article by Philstar Global back in 2003 in the lead up to Pacquiao's fight with Marco Antonio Barrera. Pacquiao would shock many and annihilate Ledwaba, dropping him 3 times before the fight was stopped in the 6th round to pick up the IBF Super Bantamweight title.
I had never seen him. I frankly had never heard of him, but I've seen and heard of him now.
And you want to see him again.
I want to see him again.
I do too.
On top of that, this is the best US debuts in boxing. For more videos like these, be sure to like, share, and if you're new, subscribe. Subscribe to the Patreon for Patreon-backed projects and early access. I'm Olfa Sancho, and I'm out.